Right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to our weekly discussion on Saturday evening at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And this week we are going to the third week of the Certificate in Happiness Studies June cohort. And this is a very, very exciting time because this is the first ever uh, weekly discussion that we host where we give each other an opportunity to discuss the material that we get to learn in the certificate in happiness studies. And to us, this is such an amazing opportunity to get to know each other, to discuss the material. And in this way, we not only understand the material from this different perspective, but we are also uh, getting to know each other in a much deeper level, right? Because uh, for us, first ever MA in happiness studies, we see the importance of applying the spiral theory of knowledge, where we revisiting the material that we have learned, and each time we do that, we can understand it at a much deeper level. Also, we would love to exercise the 3R by chains, and those are reminder, repetition, and ritual. As we got to learn in happiness studies, this is a great way for a long lasting change, right? And this is how we not only committing to the movement, but we are also recommitting to the movement. So here we are. All right. The discussion that we are going to have is not limited to the lecture that we get to learn. We are open to any discussion that are related to happiness study. So, for example, if you have a question regarding any of the 12 principle or any of the element of the spiral model, we can, of course, discuss it in great detail. All right, so let's get to it. The second Wholebeing Principle, W2, tell us that everything is interconnected. So what does this mean, right? So for example, let's say each morning you walk to your favorite coffee shop and you order coffee. And I believe there's a research study on this. I forgot the name of the researcher. But each day he walked into his favorite coffee shop, he would ask the question, how many people actually involved in delivering the coffee to me? That was his big question. And he started to connect everyone to his cup of coffee. And of course, there will be the cashier who took his order, and then the person that make the coffee and deliver it to him. And then also the including the owner of the shop who kind enough to put the shop there to offer the service. And then um, there are the coffee company who delivering the product to the shop. And then we have the farmer who grow the coffee. So just by sitting down and asking a very simple question, he quickly comes up with thousands of people who are involved in his one cup of coffee. And that is one of the demonstrations for the principle, the idea, the theory that everything is interconnected. And that not only true about the coffee, is also true about the relationship that we have with each other, right? The relationship between us and our loved one, our parent, our children, our friends, and our co-worker at work. And it is also true for different events happen in the world. And this is essentially the beauty, this is essentially the important idea of everything is interconnected. And this is the second whole being principle go into the third week. And just a quick reminder, in happiness study, we define happiness as whole being. And we use the SPIRE model as a reference system. And the SPIRE model stands for spiritual well-being, physical well-being, intellectual well-being, relational well-being, and emotional well-being. All five of that element, when combined together, when we cultivate it, we have the definition of happiness as whole being. So we have five elements plus the whole being element, which is a six, almost like a hidden one. So each of the elements, we have two principles to represent for each of those elements. And in this week, we are focusing on the second principle of whole being, which stated that everything is interconnected. So let's us dive into this week discussion. And once again, thank you so much for joining us on this open discussion. And I would love to hear your thought on each of these ideas. And again, I am focusing on the four-part lecture that we got to learn from Tao. But this discussion is not limited to just these lecture. I am totally open to the reading that we got to learn in the third weeks. And for my fellow journeyer from the MA program, the introduction to happiness study is the equivalence of 501 that we learned in the first cohort of the MA in happiness studies. All right, so let's dive to it. 3.1. 3.1, we discussed about the reality, right? What is reality, and why is it that everything is interconnected? And in order to understand the interconnectedness, to know that everything in the universe is interconnected, right? So this interconnectedness, it is not limited to just human connection. It is not limited to different forces in our life, but it is introduced in a much broader sense. That is the entire universe itself is interconnected. And this principle is illustrated by the butterfly effect from the chaos theory, where a very small action, like a flap of the butterfly, the flap of its wing, can cause us a storm. And each and everything in our world is interconnected. Therefore, each of the action that we are taking, that we are doing, no matter how small it is, it does have a great influences to the world, right? Small change can make a big differences. And in 3.1, we got to learn the connection between everyday activity like eating pizza and a larger societal structure like politics. And there's this one beautiful story that I would like to share with you. And the story is about this beautiful lotus pond. And there's only one lotus, one beautiful lotus in that pond. And the legend said that each night at 12 a.m., that beautiful lotus is duplicated itself to another beautiful lotus as beautiful as the original one. And so the second day we have two lotus. The third day we will have fourth one. And on the 30th day, the pond is full with beautiful lotus flowers. Now, the question asks how many lotus we have in that pond on the 25th day, right? So we have to calculate it backwards. On the 30th day, the pond is full with lotus. The 29th night, there was only half of the pond. The 28th, we only have a fourth. The 27th, we only have a 1/16. And the 25th, we only have like a small group of lotus. So small action indeed can make a very, very big impact, and a flap of a butterfly wing can create like a huge, huge storm. And this story can be also demonstrated in the duplicate of like the rice pea on the 64 uh, area of a chessboard that we got to learn in one of the lectures. But my point is that each of the action that we take when we apply it regularly, small change can make a huge differences. And everything in the universe is interconnected, and happiness is interconnected in that way. So at first, by each of us walking on this journey, trying to walk closer to happiness as hoping, it might not look like much, but as we spread the love, spread the happiness, eventually will make a huge difference. And combining the first Wholebeing principle that we got to learn from last week, uh, this is about let me return back to that because I want to make sure I say it correctly. So last week we learned that the aim of life is and ought to be whole person well-being, right? And then the second Wholebeing principle saying that everything is interconnected. So the whole being, happiness as whole being, is not only it's not only applied to our own life, but because everything is interconnected, is can be understood that everything in life, in my opinion, from my perspective, everything in life strive to be whole being, strive to be happy as whole being. And that is the first point that I would like to bring into this discussion, the understanding of interconnectedness and how everything is interconnected, and how we all strive to be happy. And later on in the course, so for those who has completed the certificate or MA program, later on we got to learn about the idea of Ubuntu. I am because of we are. And I think that is a beautiful expression of the interconnectedness of everything in this universe, and how when a person is happy, it is important that the whole, the entire group is happy as well. So if you have anything that you would like to share when it's come to the understanding of interconnectedness. I would love to hear from you as well. So feel free to type on the chat if you are unable to raise your hand and share. If possible, feel free to raise your hand and share your ideas. I see Jasmine raise your hand. Feel free to unmute yourself, Jasmine.
Hello, Ben. Hello, everyone. Hi, Victoria. I'm with my baby, so I'm going to turn off my camera. But I have heard the story of the lotus multiple times already, but I don't remember the details of the story until today. Like the more I heard about the story, the more it's imprinted in my head, and it's so important to remember that like each step we do, um it maybe like it's better for us to look at the end, like look at the result. It kind of like the importance of holistic perspective, and we have to see everything as a whole, not individual, you know. So very much like if we start to do something, we have to see the result of things that we want to do, in order to for us to follow with our um, have like plan, and eliminate all of the thing that it could happen that could stop us to do what we want to do, thing like that. So um, by like understanding the interconnected, or seeing like the whole picture, we can see that something happened for a reason, that could potentially build us to be greater than we actually can see ourselves. So um, so that's what I realized through the story of the lotus, and like the middle part, like in between the 25th day and before. I still don't remember what happened in between, but I have remember now, like from the first day to the 30th day, then the whole pond is plumed with beautiful flower, and that's matter because it's so result, and result is more important, but at the same time, like in between what we do and how we can keep doing what we love to do to get to our goal is important as well, you know. So like by looking at the whole picture, then we will be able to stick with what we plan to do and achieve what we want to achieve. So that's what I realized. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Jasmine. Me particularly, I particularly like that story because it is not just about the lotus, it is about the pond, about the environment. So something seemingly created from nothing, but everything is interconnected. We all share this great interconnectedness. And I love how in this lecture, how I believe this lecture, how mentioned that a small cut of the finger can affect the well-being of the entire body, and how everything is interconnected. And this is so important because Western psychology, I believe, like from my perspective, is felt to address the whole human well-being, like the mind, the body, the spirit, and the intellect, right? And not to mention the relationship that we have with each other. And because of that is limited the effectiveness in promoting mental health. So by introducing whole being, a holistic approach, it is very important that we integrate in various psychological perspectives, and it is so necessary to fully understand and address human need. So 3.1 help us understand reality and seeing reality as a whole. and we can see the importance of the holistic perspective, and it teaches us that we need to view it as a whole rather than in isolated parts. And there's a really cool example about the elephant and how different blind examiner, each of them tap on different part of the elephant, and they think that is how the elephant looked like. For example, when the one person feel the trunk of the elephant, we will see it in a different image than the one that tap on the ear. They will see the elephant like a fan, for example. But that is not the entire picture, right? We cannot judge something by focusing on a small part of it. We have to look at the entire picture, the whole picture, because everything is indeed interconnected. And understanding that, we will we will be closer to reality. And and again, when we discuss any of this, feel free to jump in, because I love to hear your idea, your perspective as well. Uh, Thanks, Jasmine, for sharing. Um, and let me see the next part, the next idea that I would like to discuss would be the spatial and temporal context. And is that the importance of recognizing the full spatial context of an entity can help us understanding its true nature and addressing its need effectively. Understanding the temporal context or the full timeline of the event is essential to accurately access the situation and avoid partial truth, which can be misleading. Right. So this part is brought up because in the lecture, Tao shared a story of a man, a short man, being chased and being pretty much chased down by a larger man, and the smaller man is calling out for help, asking for everyone around him to help him out. And if we were to just look at that situation, people might jump in to help the smaller man out because it seemed like he is being bullied. He couldn't fight back. But toward the end of the story, everyone realized that the larger man is actually an undercover police officer, and the smaller man was one of the criminal who run away from the law. So this story help us understand the importance of recognizing the full spatial context of an event or an entity rather than a smaller or temporal context. Uh, and to me, that is super important too, even though we only have one example. But this can be applied for many other situations. And again, that help us see the importance of reality, right? Because reality can be very different from what we might see at first. And, I see Victoria has been turning her camera on for a while. If you have some point that you would like to share, or just your I ams on the topic of the reality, feel free to share as well. I would love to hear from you. Hi.
Hi.
Hi,
Oh,
Victoria.
sorry, that just came loud in my headphones. But I just wanted to say, I was thinking about one of the things that we had talked about when we talked about reality and talking about whole being, and looking at focusing on whole being in so many different elements. And one of the things that we had discussed was when you look at Western medicine, right, most often they only deal with the issue or the symptoms that you're having related to a specific area, but they don't look at the whole person like European medicine or Eastern medicine does. And they've come to find, or we've come to find, that it's such a better way to deal with illness, to deal with mental health, to deal with the interconnectedness of us as human beings. But also we talked about an example that really helped me understand it was if you listen to a part of a story and then you make an assumption based on the piece that you've heard, most often your assumption is going to be wrong because you need the whole story. You need all of the elements to be able to make a clear, conscious decision or idea of what was going on. And so many people, as we've seen through history, have been unfairly judged because they were misinterpreted or misunderstood because only part of the story was told. And I just thought that that was such an important point to consider when we think about interconnectedness and how everything has a place in a story, in medicine, in mental health, in the mind-body connection. So I just wanted to bring that up. And I'm happy to see you guys.
Yeah, I love that idea, Victoria. And what you said remind me of one of the lessons that my father taught me when I was younger. And he said that when war happened, that is when both parties are wrong, because we had that discussion because in Vietnamese history we went through a lot of war. Most of the time we just defending ourselves. But my father said something very interesting. He said that when war happened, both parties, it happened because both parties are right, and they are right from their perspective. They went into this fight because they believe that they are right. But at the same time, he also said that, you know what happened because both parties are wrong as well, because they didn't take the other side perspective into consideration. And I remember that because it taught me a super important lesson about my relationship with every other kid in my school. Because you know how kids are, we play and then we fight and then we were best friend, and then the next time we just don't want to see each other anymore. And that taught me a very important question. I didn't understand how important it was until now, because thanks to that lesson, I actually take other people's perspective into consideration, and that saved me a lot of trouble, right? And I love what you mentioned earlier, Victoria, about wasn't seeing and understanding the other point of view or a holistic perspective of the entire thing. Thank you. Appreciate you for bringing that up. And I see Giovanni joined earlier. Hi, Giovanni. Feel free to share with us your thoughts later. We have plenty of topic to share today.
Hey, everybody. No, I was just we had a late night putting Jojo to sleep. So, you know, it is permission to be human when you have a kid and, you know, you're trying to do things. Important thing is I'm here now. I love everything that Victoria was saying. I love how she was just talking about, you know, the Eastern thought and the Western thought, which I thought was, you know, I just literally got home and I have this book that one of my good friends actually thought of me. her mother was getting rid of some books from her library. So she's like, I grabbed some books for you. And one of the books is called Eastern Thoughts and Western Thoughts. And this is why Swami Kriyananda, and I haven't read it yet. Literally, I just got this book, today, and I just get on here, and that's the first thing I'm hearing is, Eastern thoughts and Western thoughts. And I just thought, it's not a coincidence, nothing's synchronicity, everything's a miracle. There's a reason why, I came here, during this discussion, reason why I have that book. I have not opened it yet. But now, I'm kind of intrigued. I don't even know if I'll go to sleep tonight. I'll probably just read through it all night. But, what Victoria's saying was important because, everything is interconnected. If you really think about where we came from and you go back to the one source, then everything that you're experiencing has come from that source. What I know is from, energy is that, everything came from light and we are light. So if everything is divided from light, then what you're seeing in front of you is just a representation of what you are. That's how everything is connected. It's, we have different religions, Eastern, Western religion. We have the religion of self, which is what we're in this earth school for. And what we have to do is just basically put the pieces together, to become whole again. Right now, we don't have the complete picture of who we are, but we have a really good idea of who we are. And we're so blessed to be, in this age now where we have technology on our side, where we have all this information, to this knowledge that we can actually apply in our lives. I started thinking about before, everyone thinks that, only masters and gurus and stuff like that live in Himalayan mountains, but it's not true. Every day you show up to your own life, you become a master of your own life, and becoming interconnected, not even to the point of being oneness, because I think that being enlightened means to recognize that you're oneness with universality. So with the entire universe, not just with things of this earth and things of this world that we see, but what we don't see as well. We are all part of the same thing. Everything is just light moving, trying to go back to equilibrium, trying to make sense of this nonsense that we call reality, because everything's an illusion. Everything is a reflection of, that first cause, which is the source of everything. So I don't know what I walked into, but that's just, what I get from just coming in. So thank you guys.
That is so beautiful. And Giovanni, when you showed me that book, it literally sent chill down my spine because not only it so much related to what Victoria said earlier, but in the beginning of this conversation, when you wasn't here, I shared the story of the pond and the lotus, of how on the 30th day, the lotus is full, the pond is full of lotus, and you showed me the book with one single lotus at the beginning of the story, one beautiful lotus that the legend said that every night at midnight, it will duplicate itself, and it just fit in so perfectly. Amazing.
Yeah. And I just want to say that the other book she got me was God is for Everyone. It's another book. And then the other one was something that we learned in the Masters of Happiness Studies, which is Ubuntu. This has to deal with, a blueprint for human prosperity. This includes like the current global banking system, that we have, and how we are just a part of everything. So I just thought, there's a reason for everything. So I just love that I just walked into that, and that you started off with a lotus, and my book has it, and yeah, it's just everything's a miracle. So I'm just grateful.
I also mentioned Ubuntu too. Like where do you find this friend? Because I want to find those friends too that share like beautiful, wonderful books with
So
me.
actually, funny story. Before we moved here, so this friend was a housekeeper that we had hired, when I was living in the townhouse. So she comes to this house, twice every month, but she's more than a friend. She became like part of my family. very smart lady. She's got her master's degree. She used to be a teacher, and she found her passion in cleaning. It's what she does. And through her, I get to learn more because we share deep knowledge about books. We share books all of the time. We go back and forth and share books. And it's been, probably almost a year and a half now that I've known her. And because of her, I think now we're on our 8th book that we traded, in a year and a half. So it's pretty good. So I just think that there's a reason why people come into your life, and it's up to you to uncover that. And I felt like with her, I uncovered that because it's oneness. She doesn't just clean my house. She helps me clean my thoughts, because we share concepts back and forth, which is the essence of, having great relationships and maintaining and building those great relationships, not seeing someone just because of they do a certain job, or seeing them for who they truly are, which is oneness with you. Once you remove all of the identity, that you have in that the other person that you see have. I don't even call other people. I say other selves, because we all are ourselves, but then, we see other selves, other aspects of ourselves, kind of like the 9 types from, that we spoke about. So yeah, just, through conversation, seeing what people like, what people don't like, and just enhancing those, those relationships with people. So
Oh, beautiful. And well, we need to introduce her to our happiness studies community. And I would love to meet her and listen to her wisdom. So hopefully we can start that conversation. She seems like she's gonna be a great addition to the team. So, but thank you so much for sharing that. And we have plenty of topic that I would love to hear from you. And once again, thank you so much, Giovanni, for joining us uh, almost every single discussion. And for those who know of Giovanni and Victoria, they always have a great idea to share. And I had the pleasure to be in the team of 3, the first team of 3 in our coaching session. And this is like the great reunion. So thank you both for joining this discussion. And to end the first part of the 4-part lecture, I do want to mention quickly about the ideas of happiness and effective management. And happiness and effective management come from facing reality as it is, right? 3.1, it is about reality. So happiness and effective management come from facing reality as it is. Understand the full picture is essential to dealing with situation effectively. Partial true or limited perspective can lead to harm and misjudgment, as Victoria brought it up. And it is so important for us to see reality as its entirety. So super important to take a step back and make observation. Make sure that you have every perspective possible to a situation, because if you don't have all the information, you might not choose wisely to act on it. So I think we cover all of the important points. Thank you so much. And hello, MT. And for those who are in the chat that have not have a chance to share, I understand that you might be taking care of your evening activity. Thank you so much for joining us, for listening in. I would love to hear from you next time as well. Now, let's go to 3.2, system thinking. This is another favorite topic of mine on system thinking. That is Victoria, right? MT. I see you raise your hand, so feel free to unmute yourself.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Ben. Yeah, I respect the rule that I need to raise my hand. That's why I will talk too much. I will have to leave early today because I will be attending my son's piano performance. So I would like to share something about the system thinking and reality, because this one is also one of my favorite topics. So whenever I think about reality, Giovanni just reminds me of what we see or what we hear or what we normally perceive as reality is just a projection of our state of mind. There's no really such things outside, such a person we normally see a person carrying or doing a function or a job, and we label them as that is the person, that is the nature of that person, such as cleaner, a person who helping us, who is doing a low profile job. For example, we always categorize people in such a way. So it's a kind of limited thinking and perception of reality, because in truth, everyone have a happy and beautiful nature. And whether how we perceive them depends on our state of mind. If we just cling to the material appearance, then we can only see a very superficial version of aspect of a person. But if we remove that attachment to the social position or job or wealth, money, things like that, or nationality or the skin color, what kind of thing, then we remove all those mistaken appearance, and we can perceive the true nature of the person, which is in fact ultimately is the true nature of our self, the nature of love, the nature of compassion, of the nature of kindness and humility. So that is one thing I would like to mention. The second thing I would like to say about is every time I think about the system thinking, the story about the elephant keep moving me all the time. I think everyone knows about the story of the elephant. There's 5 or 6 of blind men who try to find out what an elephant is. And one just touching each of them, just touch a particular part of the elephant and assume that the elephants look like that part. For example, one touch the trunk of the elephant and confirm that the elephant is like a snake, something like that. Or someone else touch the ear of the elephant and saying, oh, elephant is just like a kind of fun. Or someone else just touching a body of the elephant and say, it's just like a wall. So everyone, each of us, see reality based on our personal condition. Our personal condition is just conditioned by our culture, by our understanding and our previous education. So it's just kind of intellectual formation of the world. So it's not true. So if you want to perceive the true reality of everything, of the other people, of ourselves and others, and of all the phenomena, we have to change our mind so that we can go beyond our ordinary thinkings. And this is not an easy job. And for me, my way is through meditation, through silence, that I can go back to myself to be able to find myself and just step back and see what reality truly means to me. Because actually, in truth, everything is assigned a meaning. And the meaning we assign to things depends on our condition. So if you want to be happy all the time, we need to see things from the happy perspective, or from both sides of the reality, not only the positive side, but also to be able to embrace the negative side of life, because everything, two things is just like a coin, has two sides of the coin, two sides. So we need to embrace everything. So that's how, for me, system thinking, we need to embrace everything. We cannot adopt one and reject other. We need to be able to have a space in our mind so that we are able to embrace everything. For example, painful feeling. We normally try to look for pleasure in our life. We also think, okay, if I want to be happy, I need to have healthy life. I need to have all the good things that happen into my life in order to enjoy happy life. But that's not true, because life is not like that. You can want to have a thing, you can strive for that. But then by striving and focusing only the good thing in life, you neglect the other part of the life. You neglect the darkness of ourselves. And we can't adopt a system thinking if we only strive to lie while neglecting darkness. We can't. So that's why we need to not only to think of ourselves only, of our own happiness and well-being, but we need to share and we need to think from other perspective as well. So that's for me is because for me, everyone, including myself, I feel as a part of a bigger system, ecosystem that is not, we cannot be separated from the system itself, because without the system, we are not able to function properly. It's just like a hand. It cannot function without the other hand and the other parts of the body. So in the same way, one person cannot function and cannot be an island. So that's why we need to be connected and associated and work together toward the journey of beauty and of happiness. That is my sharing. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Victoria. We appreciate you. And for those who do not know who Victoria is, she is a student of the certificate program in October last year. So she is almost completing her certificate, and I believe she applied for the MA program, but the timeline is too close. So hopefully Victoria will join the MA community next year. And it's always good to hear from you, Victoria.
Thank you, Ben. I'm still need to study hard, so I'm still on my CIHS certificate, and I enjoy doing it very much. So I hope that everyone just join. I believe that most of you are here in the MA system, but if you are just started your journey by joining the certificate, I do really enjoy and happy to see you and meet you here. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Victoria. Go ahead, Giovanni.
I was just inspired by what Victoria just said, and she's absolutely right about how, you know, the whole systems thinking, the whole systems concept is what we are part of. I mean, if you look at the human structure, the human body itself, you know, we are a participant inside of a system that's built off of subsystems. Everything is working in an orderly, you know, fashion. Everything's working off of balance, and when you don't have balance, that's when things happen in the body, like disease and stuff like that. But the operator of the system is the mind. You know, that's where that comes from, and you just have to be aware that when you're thinking of systems, you're thinking of you're just taking the whole and you're breaking it down into something that's meaningful. You're trying to break it down into a way that you can relate it into everything else. And just to kind of, you know, give you an idea, these whole systems that we have, you know, they all operate with certain boundaries as it interacts with the environment. So just understand that a system is limited, which is dependent on the whole environment. You know, just like this world is limited based on what we call a dimension. But outside of this dimension, this world would not, you know, there's no way that this world could be formed. It could only be formed in this dimension because of, you know, the boundaries that it holds to. Everything has a universal law, and that one universal law is balance. Just like if you were to, you know, have a company, people within that company have a certain system that they had to abide by. If not, then the company, you know, would not be successful. You know, in our personal relationships, we all have, you know, systems and boundaries, and they're very complex, you know, but they all serve a purpose and function. And that purpose and function is to understand our universal, you know, oneness with the whole entire system. So it's making small sense of little things and understanding that those little things are a part of bigger things. And as those bigger things move, you're going to have a lot more chaos. Everything's going to appear to be chaos, but it's all illusion, because what it is it's all happening for us to understand that we are part of everything. So
Beautiful. And that would be the next topic that I would like to discuss in this 3.2 system thinking. And thanks for sharing, Victoria and Giovanni. And we all understand the importance of holistic understanding. And I would love to talk about the understanding of the interconnectedness and how it is so essential for leading a fulfilling life, right? Because this is happiness study, and happiness defined as whole being. So why is it important? Why is it so important that we have to have this holistic understanding? So I don't know about everybody else, but for me growing up, I was taught that I need to do well in school. I need to find a good job, making a lot of money, and then everything will be okay. But that is not the case, right? Because I see rich and wealthy people suffering, right? They might have a lot of money, but they don't have a really good friends. They don't have that relational well-being. They might suffer emotionally, and then their health, right? Just look at some of like the really wealthy people. Most of them are not very healthy because they are so busy with work. So the holistic understanding is super important for leading a fulfilling life. And as you might have noticed in the SPIRE model, there is no financial well-being. And I remember reading from Hal books or in one of his lecture, like when he sent the book for to before it's go public, he get like feedback, and some of the professor recommended him that he could change it and include in financial well-being. And I'm so glad that he didn't, because I love the SPIRE model. And to me, I feel like if you can fulfill all five elements of spiritual well-being, physical well-being, intellectual well-being, relational well-being, and emotional well-being, then financial well-being will come along the way. It will be the byproduct of it. So understanding the interconnectedness of everything, of nature, of different part of ourselves, of the relationship of us with other people, and the environment around us is so important. And in order to have that holistic understanding, we have to have the system thinking, have to have that understanding. And I would love to hear your thought on this, because for my community, like the Vietnamese community, especially right here in the US, we make good money. Most of them are salon, like nail salon owners. Most of them are restaurant owners. They make good money, but they have to work so much that when they get to their retirement, they have to spend all of that money to take care of their health. They might not develop a strong relationship with their family member. Pretty much they has trading so many other value, like relationship, emotional well-being, intellectual well-being, physical well-being, and even spiritual well-being. They traded all of that for money, and toward the end of their life, they spending all of that money trying to get back what they have already lost, but it was too late. So in order to lead a fulfilled life, you gotta have that holistic understanding. And to me, this is so priceless. This is so important. And feel free to admit yourself, Victoria.
is Victoria going to
Okay.
say something? Or?
Oh, sorry.
Oh.
Yeah, thank you. So
No,
I
go ahead.
would like to share about the interconnectedness. Yeah, I think that whatever we do individually and personally has an impact on other people, has an impact on our world, our environment, our community. First, our family, and then the place where we work, and then more important into the world. So, and vice versa, what other people have effect on us as well. So everyone, each of us affect each other. So for me, the best approach for me is to be happy myself first, to take care of myself, properly take care and be good into myself, so that I have carry a kind of positive energy, so that I can effortlessly impact and influence others. So how I do it, and I think of the system, the interconnectedness principle in terms of the body and mind relationship. Actually, for example, when we think about when we have some painful physical pains in our body, for example, we know sometimes I have headache, I have stress, and I have headache. So it shows me that there's something wrong in my mind, because whatever physical symptoms is just a sign of how we feel inside our mind. So if we understand and apply the interconnectedness principle to ourselves, we can know how to look back into ourselves and see the connection between what is going on with our body, and then find the root cause into our psychological state, because they have a strong relationship. So if we are able to understand that, then we can keep our body healthy. Because if we have some problem, physically problem, like for example, we have more weight, that is a problem. Maybe we don't worry about, okay, how we look, or we don't worry about that. But into there's some problem going on with our health. For example, we have the sugar, we have a blood pressure, or things like that. So same thing for when we have a headache. We have headache because we have stress, we have anxiety or depression that is going on. So we need to go back into ourselves and slow down our life and take some silence, so that we can investigate the deeper cause that lie deep into our psychological state. And if everyone is able to do that for themselves, I think they can improve themselves in terms of their whole well-being, because physical well-being affect our psychological, and our psychological in turn affect our relational well-being, and relational well-being in turn affect other things. And in turns, every 5 elements of the spine affect each other. So whenever we notice something is not going well, with respect to one aspect of the 5 spine elements, we need to take time, slow down, and come back and to heal ourselves. Because only when we are well, healthy, we are happy, we are in a natural state of our whole well-being, then we can produce the best result for ourselves and exert the best influence into others. And naturally, the world from there will flow and will become a peaceful and happy world, and everything will be in order. So that is my very humble way of thinking about myself, and that's why I apply this principle into myself. And I hope this kind program of happiness will become very popular. So because it's very basic thing, but not everyone is aware of them. Not everyone have this right understanding of how to operate at a personal level. So if you cannot operate properly at your personal level, you can't help at the internal personal level. You give more problem to that interpersonal level. And from internal personal level, if you are not doing well, then beyond that, beyond the personal and interpersonal, when we talk in terms of the whole system, our world, our universe, our community, it can't function well. So everyone needs to come back to the basic, to the foundation, that is taking proper care of ourselves, physically, psychologically, spiritually, intellectually, and relational. From then, everything will be fine and will be in the most organic way of functioning and producing good result and impact on the world. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Victoria. And when you are sharing, somehow I connect the 5 element, the SMILE model to the 5 element that we have in our Eastern culture. It is the wood element, the fire element, the earth, the metal, and the water, and how each of them affect each other. So in that way, in the SMILE model, I feel like there is a huge connection too. And I would love to hear Giovanni idea on this as well, right? So just imagine the SMILE model. We have spiritual well-being, physical well-being, intellectual well-being, relational well-being, and emotional well-being. When I was hearing Victoria share, I make a connection that, you know what, spiritual well-being can help support intellectual well-being, because when you connect to your spiritual well-being, then that in itself generate intellectual well-being, because you can connect more with your inner self. And intellectual well-being, once you have intellectual well-being, then you are more in control of your emotional well-being. So by cultivating intellectual well-being, your emotional well-being is doing well as well. And when your mind is good, right? And when you have positive emotion, then that in turn gives you a very healthy body because of the mind-body integration. And with a healthy mind and body, it's easier for you to build good relationship with other people. And with good relationship, it helps you cultivate your spiritual well-being. And this comes in full circle. Each of these elements support each other. And it gives the idea of whole being a holistic meaning. And again, I would love to hear what Giovanni would like to say, because this idea just came up and somehow I thought of Giovanni. So feel free to share, Giovanni.
Yeah, I don't know what I can say that hasn't already been said, but for me, the way I see money is money's just another tool that we have to measure how we can play with energy here in this existence, right? So when I think of money, you have to be mindful of how you use your energy. You know, don't think of yourself as a person that needs money. You're just a person that needs more energy, right? So how can you get more energy is by putting more energy into whatever it is that you want to put your energy into. If it's your job, then the energy you put into that job is going to get you money as an exchange at the end of the day. But also be mindful of, you know, not only how you obtain your money, but also how you spend your money, because now you're spending energy. So a lot of us are not very mindful of how we invest, you know, our energy, and that's extremely important, because what you want to do is you want to keep your energy levels high so that you can always redistribute and replenish that energy, you know. And it's kind of like if you're putting multiple batteries together, you know, one positive goes to a different positive, one negative goes to another negative, and at the end, now you have more capacity to do more, I want to say, energy work at the end of the day, because that's all it is. So you have to just change your mindset and realize that you are an energy being having this human experience, trying to make sense of how to use energy. And if you see it that way, that's the most holistic systems thinking way you can choose to view, you know, your financial status, is because even we hold our money in banks. You know, money flows just like rivers flow, and rivers have banks. You know, that's the same reason why they call money currency, because it is the energy that keeps, you know, not only our own micro, but also the macro systems going in this world. You know, that's how we measure how we're doing, basically. But it's important to kind of, and I think, Ben, that you are right, that it does, you know, go hand in hand with the 5 elements. like I said, everything is just another form of the original form. You know, we are all here sitting here, but we are all made up of elements, different aspects, different, you know, quantities of the same elements, but yet we are still the same elements at the end of the day. We're even beyond those elements, you know, we're spiritual beings. So the fact that we have this spirit, that's the only thing that makes things work is your mind. You know, because before Bill Gates and, you know, and Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk were rich, they had an idea that they were already rich. So what they did is they invested their energy into how they felt they already were, and what they focused on what they can do now and how they can use their energy perfectly, which for them it was, they knew they couldn't do everything, so they found people that can help them obtain what they had in their mind, you know. And at the end of the day, they're all able to pay their people very well, you know, and it's all an energy exchange. That's all it is. And I think it's a beautiful thing because, you know, once you change your mind, and once you change the way you see things, then the things that you begin to see start to change, and that's where the magic happens, you know. And when it comes to the Spire, the financial aspect, which is not mentioned in Aspire, but you know, if we want to live in this reality, we need money, right? We need that financial stability, but it's also equilibrium. You don't want to have too much of anything, and you don't want to have not enough. So what we're striving for is complete abundance, which is always having enough to do what you want to do, right? And you have to be mindful of what it is that if you had this high amount of energy or money, what is it that, you know, the earth would get out of it? What is it that your family would get out of it? What is it that your community would get out of it? You know, and when you look at it that way, then money, you can never really run out of, you know, because you can never really run out of ideas to make money. As long as you're using your systems thinking to produce that high energy, you know, you're going to get that energy in return. What you put in is what you're going to get out.
I like that a lot, and it's definitely related to the system thinking. And when we discuss about money, you know, we can spend like the entire course talking about money. And one thing I really like about money is that, you know, let's say the $100 bill, that $100 bill can change so many hands, and it's my return back to you. And that $100 doesn't increase in value, but just because it's that changing hand, it's exchanging so much value that the actual value that it generated is way over the face value of that $100 bills. It increased so many fold. And I know it's a little bit hard to understand, but I just want to speak my mind of how the currency, how the value can increase as it changing hand. And on what Giovanni shared just now, I would like to discuss the systemic thinking versus symptomatic thinking. This would help us see the importance of system thinking as a whole. And this is one of my favorite topics too, by the way, because most people tend to think in a symptomatic way, right? That's in when a problem occurs, they recognize it and they starting to deal with that problem. So that would be a symptomatic thinking, looking at the symptom and trying to solve it. The problem with that is that the more problem you are trying to solve, the more problem presented itself. And this is a huge turning point between traditional psychology and positive psychology. The expert realized that by focusing on solving the problem does not go away. It actually enlarges. So by focusing on solution, you actually appreciating the good, right? Like the famous quote, appreciate the good and the good will appreciate. And to me, this is the importance of systemic thinking versus symptomatic thinking. Instead of waiting for the problem to happen and try to solve it, we have to see everything as a holistic understanding so that we can be proactive rather than reactive, right? We don't want to react to the problem. We want to be proactively prepare for whatever might comes up. And this is something that Victoria mentioned earlier about holistic thinking, about being proactive, taking care of ourselves before the problem occurs. And I would love to hear your thought on this. Because to me, I feel like this is universal. But, I would love to hear what you think about systemic thinking versus the symptomatic thinking, proactive rather than reactive. And it is open discussion, so feel free to share.
Ben, I'd like to just point one thing out that I just think the way we can look at this holistically is system thinking would be the positive whole, and then symptomatic thinking would be the negative parts that make up the whole. Right? Because they're both needed, but they're both to be used when they're supposed to be used. I think that, when you have a fixed mindset and you think just in symptomatic thinking, then what I wrote here is you're always thinking of temporary solutions, which they don't really make sense for your end goal, right? They just make sense for now. And we can see things like that, such as desire, like temporary desires, temporary pleasures. I'm writing down right now. I would say that would be more like your wants versus what you need, right? And then what you're focusing on is you can start seeing now that there's a cause and effect relationship, but the effect is what you focus on. You don't really worry about the cause when you're in symptomatic thinking, whereas when you're in systems thinking, the effect doesn't matter at all because you already know what the cause is. And a lot of times the cause for anything that happens in our life is usually us, how we think of things. That's what causes things to appear in our lives. But when you think of systems thinking as a whole, then you're thinking about the interconnectedness. When symptomatic thinking would be thinking about our separateness, right? Just saying, yes, we're different, but, and systems thinking says we're different and we are still the same. We are uniquely different or uniquely the same, I would say, in that sense. And when you focus on systems thinking, you're turning problems now into, possibilities, so that's a growth mindset is what you're doing. And what you're doing with systems thinking is, with the Eastern Western stuff that I've been reading is, you're focusing things on like compassion, right? You're focusing on patience. You're focusing on faith. These are positive things that make you look at the whole of everything, that you're not really worried about what's immediate in front of you because the end result has already been seen. So you can your system itself could kind of relax, and this is how you can be at peace while everything is going chaotic around you, is because you're believing in something higher than just what you're alluded to seeing as a reality, because what we see in front of us is not really our reality. It's only just a perspective of the reality. So what we're trying to do is get a broader view. So we have to expand our thinking to go from a symptomatic thinking, and right now symptomatic thinking would be what we're going through with, the drug industry here in the US. I mean, you look at veterans, veterans go for care and they're giving them opiates and people are being addicted to it. That's symptomatic thinking. You're thinking about the symptoms. You're not going to the root cause, of it. Whereas the system thinking would be more like, integrated health, where you can teach people how to meditate, you know, teach people the importance. If they can't sleep at night, try journaling first. Write down all of your thoughts before you go to sleep. Clear your mind so that your body can actually rest and not think. You know, we're always thinking, and we're never, you know, really just being. We're always trying to become something, but that thing that we're trying to become is never here. So all we have to do is realize that all we can do is just be who we are right now. And that alleviates a lot of the issues in people's lives. So.
Well, I love that a lot, Giovanni, and I am so thankful that we had the opportunity to do this discussion. You know, like 90-minute discussion rather than 5-minute or 3-minute discussion when we were taking the MA program. I just want to be mindful with the time. Just go ahead and do a timer so that we know that we have about like 13 minutes left. And I love this discussion. You know, there's so much that we have discussed, and we are only on 3.2. And I hope that we will. I mean, we don't have to finish all 4 part of the lecture. We can just go with the flow. And this is so enriching, and I really appreciate your sharing. And I love how Giovanni brought up the systematic thinking of how it lead to a long-term effect. It lead to a long-term view, and how like the systematic thinking can lead to like a long-term problem because we only focus on a small part of the whole, and that is super important. And before we go to the next point, I think Victoria might be wanting to share something. So feel free to share quickly, and then I would like to go to the next one. And I see Jasmine raise her hand as well. So either one is fine. Feel free to.
Hello, Ben. Hi, everybody. Oh, I just want to add one point that is you know, I understand more now. Listening to Giovanni explain this, even though I know about the system thinking that, you know, give us a chance to look at the result instead of looking at part and, you know, like other thing that could come up in our way, on our way. But I cannot say, like Giovanni said, just because I don't remember all of the lecture. The fact that remember all of the point and lecture that we learned from this course, that gives Giovanni or anybody a leverage to understand this whole map better. So when we remember them, you know, like all the point of the lecture that we learn is create kind of like a mind map in our head, and that would give us this connection and the confidence to share our our understanding better, you know, and clear. And because Giovanni has seen the picture and he studied really deep, that's why the way he explained this concept, system thinking, is so clear, and he can connect all the dots. That also helped me to understand the picture better too. Yeah, I just want to say thank you. That's all. Thank you.
Thanks, Jasmine. And I also see Victoria raise her hand. So I'm gonna actually both of you are Victoria, but I would like to invite the MA Victoria to share because you haven't had a chance to share yet.
So just quick as well, I wanted to say, you know, I love what you shared, and then I love what Giovanni shared. And one of the things that I really like in considering systematic versus symptomatic thinking is that idea of solution focused that we learn so much about, right? And the idea of focusing on the symptom, which could cause us to remain stuck in the negative or in the problem, as opposed to moving forward into the solution, right? Because we all have symptoms to situations in life. And if we stay there, we never grow. I love Giovanni said, you know, gaining this growth mindset. And when we look at the solution and we look at the system, right? When we look at the system, we realize that there's all these pieces, all these steps. And if one step is out of whack, it collapses. So it's so important to have to be able to see the whole system in place, to recognize that everyone or every step plays a part. Whereas when we're focusing symptomatically, again, we're looking at one little piece of the puzzle and not seeing how that one little piece affects the whole. I love that whole discussion that you guys both talked about money and how the financial idea is not part of the SPIRE elements, because oftentimes, and not always, but when money is the focus or wealth is the focus, we lose sight of all the other aspects of life that create the wholeness of who we are. And at some point, it always comes back to us. And then we see the depletion that has happened, and to try to claw our way back up and recognize that money is not the end all be all to life. Of course, we need it to live, but to recognize that there are so many other areas and elements and pillars that are so much more effective and that bring us to a higher level of life rather than just a financial component. So I love this. I love that I'm getting to be part of this discussion.
Right. Thank you so much, Victoria. And as you can see, there are so many idea that we can talk about. We barely got to 3.2. And earlier I saw Victoria from the certificate program open her mic. If you want to share something very quickly, feel free to do so. Thank you.
Yes, one more thing that I also realized from this discussion about the symptomatic and system holistic thinking is that I have always in my mind to keep me remember of this principle is the black spot on the whole white paper. I always keep me thinking about how symptomatic thinking of our mind always keep our mind focusing on the black spot instead of seeing, realizing, and remembering the white nature of the whole paper, which is our system, right? So because of this focus, very short term and symptomatic focus on just the black spot, then we got stuck, really got stuck. We can't move on. So I think any of us can experience this situation. For example, for me, I feel that sometimes I feel, okay, I cannot do this because I'm a shy person, or because I lack strength. So because of our limiting belief, then we just focus on the problem and we neglect what can work. Actually, we forgot this very huge part, which is in fact our infinite human potential. And then this simple analogy of the black spot and the white paper, I think somebody told about that long time ago, but I forgot the name. Maybe Nelson Mandela or somebody else. I don't know. But it keep remain in my mind and make it easy for me whenever I think, okay, I shouldn't focus on the black spot. I shouldn't just focus on the problem, but also on the infinite potential possibility of solution that can work. And actually, I need to just shift my perspective from my black spot into the white paper, just as Giovanni mentioned, instead of relying on our limited human weakness, we should try to focus on our infinite human potential, such as patience, kindness, love, all these things that is open huge doors and opportunity for us to grow and to thrive successful in life.
Beautiful. Thank you, Victoria. And there are so many good points that we can discuss further. And I thought we're gonna have like a lot of time and we're gonna be able to discuss so many points. But as you can see, even 90 minutes is not enough, and we barely have like 3 or 4 people are talking. So I feel I'm just so blessed to have this opportunity. And thank you so much for sharing. But just quickly, 3.3 is about time. 3.4 about the Good Samaritan. Both of these lecture are so dear to my heart. I want to use the remaining time, right, to talk about time and the significance of system thinking, the impact of our perception on time. And earlier in this discussion, Victoria also mentioned the importance of have the moment of silence rather than chasing activity in our busy life in the Western point of view. So time is so important. And I don't know if you remember this, but when I revisiting this lecture, and of course we can definitely spend a little bit more time today to discuss this because I feel it is so important because this lecture here, we literally get to discuss on space time, all right? We might not
Yeah.
talk about it directly, but this is indeed about space time. By slowing down, we are actually gaining more time. We don't want to feel time at linear, right? When I'm talking about linear perspective, it means that the past, the present, and the future. Now, a new way of looking at time to me is the spiral theory of time. We often talk about the spiral theory of knowledge, the spiral theory of action. Time is very similar, right? Once we slow down, when we get time to have a moment of silence, we actually expand our perception of time, like the flow state and all of that wonderful thing. So instead of keep chasing one after another, we need to give ourselves a moment of silence, a moment of rest, so we can have different perspective of time. And I already see Giovanni already in the mute himself. Feel free to share. I would love to hear each of your thoughts before we end in this conversation.
I just really like the concept of the spiral theory of time because it's very intriguing. I just feel like when we look at time, we understand that time is confusion when we're talking about eternity, right? Eternity is something that exists eternally now. It's always here. The reason why we have stress and anxiety is either we're thinking about things in the past, and trying to control things for the future. We're never in the present moment, in the now. So I just think that, historically, we got to just understand that, all the events, everything that shows up into our life is meant to teach us a lesson. It's made for us. It's not happening to us, right? But sometimes, like I had troubles with love in the past, all my relationships. But after going back and thinking about what the problem was, and it was my idea of what love was false one, and it wasn't until I made that connection where love really started to show up in my life, where it was unconditional, where I got to meet new friends such as you and Victoria, Vero, Julia, Regini, so many people that I just absolutely love unconditionally, which means you don't have to be my friend, because of something. You're just my friend and I love you, because we are all the same thing, trying to fulfill our perspective in this confusion of ours, which is time. And I think that once we get past, our idea of what time really is, then we start to really go into the core of who we are as a spiritual being, and that we're not confined or limited to space, time, or dimension. It's just we're limited in our thinking about who we are when it comes to space, time, and dimension. So I can go really, deep when it comes to time, and I can lose a lot of people when it comes to time. But just understand that time is necessary because it's the only place where motion happens. Everything in eternity is completely still, and time being the confusion, it's you know, this is why we get duality, is because we have these equal opposing forces trying to become balanced all over again. And we have, you know, what we call, you know, friction and stuff like that when it comes to, you know, our lives. But yeah, I just think that you can go back in time, make sense of your childhood, and you can heal a lot of things. You can heal a lot of things by going back in your mind and making sense of it from a higher spiral theory of knowledge, from knowing higher, from thinking higher. You know, there's a reason why we've all gone through what we've gone through, but we've survived 100% of our worst days. You know, we forget that we are currently warriors because our ancestors survived so much. We're surviving so much, and we don't give ourselves credit for it. But it all starts with understanding that, you know, our personal growth involves just integrating these lessons from our past, whatever that we have in front of us, that's our current challenges that we see, and just trying to make sense of like what we want for ourselves in like a potential future, because everything's happening at the same time. It's just our actions that determine which timeline we see. So.
Really cool. Please, Victoria, feel free to share.
I was looking back over some of our discussion with time, and there was this quote, I think it was a quote from, or a discussion about Oren Zuckerman. And he talked about the idea that our relationship to time is so important. And what happens so often is that we're taught, or we come to believe, that we have to fill our time with more and more and more and more stuff, never realizing that what we really need to do is to sit and to reflect and to experience and embody what we've learned, you know, what the universe has to offer us. And if we don't allow ourselves time to do that, all we're filled with is distraction and always trying to chase time and to gain more. And there's always the same 24 hours in a day. There's never any more. But if you take two different people and look at them, one person's day could be filled with that hamster wheel, the rat on the hamster wheel, just constantly trying to gain more. Whereas if you look at somebody else, the reality is, if you learn to sit in meditation and to find flow and to, you know, become introspective on all that you've experienced, you'll actually gain more and find more time. And that's kind of the conundrum or the duality of time and space. And I love that idea, because I think so many people are confused with how to gain time. And it's by slowing down and stopping, as opposed to speeding up and moving more, that we can gain it.
Beautiful. I love that. And I know we are running out of time, but don't worry, you know, everything is interconnected. So we will have plenty of opportunity to circle back to this, because again, everything is interconnected. So I would like to thank you so much for joining us, especially Giovanni and Victoria. I feel like they're juggling, you know, it's like the dream team, a team of three coach in the MA in happiness studies, and it's such a wonderful reunion. And I feel like we can talk for another 10 hours, but you know what? We gotta be respect to the limit of time in this discussion. But there will be many, many more conversations to be had. And this is barely the beginning of this lifelong journey. I'm so thankful. I'm so glad that I have such wonderful fellow journeyers, and of course, Dr. including Towns and many others that didn't have the chance to join us today. But I'm sure we will lead this movement, and the journey will be very fun. Will be very, very large in spirit. So Before we go, I would like to play a song. And once again, thank you so much for participating, for joining us today. And have a wonderful weekend, everybody.